Hey guys, welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome in. It's always good to see a new face. Today, like every other week in this channel, we're actually going to talk about games that were key to building up genres that we know and love today. Some were heavy influences, and others changed the way that we view them entirely. Today is no exception, and honestly, it's a really early example of the genre as a whole, and that's the RPG genre. Many of us think of this as a Japanese-originated game type, however, that's not entirely accurate. Early RPG games were mostly based off of D&D, made by Gary Gygax and Dave Omson. This pen and paper basis of high fantasy adventure role-playing game gave developers a blueprint, a set of rules that they could use to develop video games, and develop them they did, but one in particular was influential. So if you have a few minutes, sit back and grab a snack as we go into RPGs again, and one influential game that's been cited as the influence to many other games moving forward. That game was Ultima 3 Exodus. Yep, we're back to Ultima again on the channel. Honestly, it's sort of shocking how many times and how influential this entire series is. Well, in some ways, and in other ways not so much. Basically because the series itself got its start in the early 1980s, and then as it progressed, it continued to innovate through much of its run as a series. Now, what made this one particularly important, you ask? Well, that's a good question. First off, it was one of the earlier games to animate characters in it, and it was also one of the first ones to allow you to control a party of 4 characters. I know this kind of seems basic now, as most games have parties of 3 to 4 characters, but a lot of early RPGs were solo affairs. Not just in gameplay, but in party size as well. Mechanically, it worked a lot of like what we know from turn-based RPGs, with players inputting the actions that they wanted and each party member to take them into action would happen with enemies getting their turn based off initiative, haste buffs, etc., similar to D&D rules that govern the pen and paper games. Another thing about your party that was cool is all the classes, 11 in total. For a game this early, that's super impressive, with everything from paladins and clerics to illusionists, druids, and alchemists. All these were available. You could even choose races, with each of them having perks and flaws that would affect their development in various different stats, very much like D&D itself. This is a lot of detail for a game running on limited hardware of 1983. Heck, you could even bribe, steal, and fight townsfolk that you can interact with, which reminds me of a lot of later RPGs like Skyrim and Fallout, to be quite honest. This amount of work and detail paid off as the game actually sold quite well, selling around 100,000 copies in 1986, and over 120,000 copies in 1990, which to me is even more impressive. Not because it's more copies sold, but because it continued to sell that well 4 years later. It was also so popular that it got moved over to various different platforms. The Amiga, IBM PC, Atari ST, Macintosh, and the NES/Famicom. Yep, you heard me right. This is one of the earliest games as an RPG to get moved over to consoles. It was even cited as one of the influences for games like Final Fantasy and even Dragon's Quest. And itself was influenced by Wizardry, another heavy influencing game in the RPG genre, and another to influence many of the RPGs mentioned here today. It also solidified Ultima as an RPG brand to many a gamer due to its intricate plot, well-executed turn-based combat, race selection, and class selection. But looking at them, you can easily see how they would be part of the blueprint of what was to come down the line. Japan in particular became very enamored with Ultima and Wizardry in particular, that many developers in the RPG space of games cited both games as influences to their own games. However, what do you guys think of this one? Did any of you ever play the Ultima series of games, and if so, which ones? Did any of you know that it was this big of a deal that it got ported to consoles? Did any of you know that it influenced this many other games? Heck, what are some of your favorite RPGs? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, if you don't mind, please leave this video a like. And if you happen to see more of my stuff you like, consider following the channel. That actually does help me out a ton. For now though, I want you to know that I appreciate you taking time out of your day and spending it with me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until we meet again, happy gaming.